Hi there, I'm Cathi Barker from Software Solutions, and my learners have just highlighted to me that my video 6 is of a poor sound quality, and so for this reason I'm redoing video 6, which is looking at the topic of how you enter and edit and manage data in Microsoft Excel. Now, with this particular file in front of me, I'm going to insert a new sheet, and that's what we do with this little button here. It's a circle with a plus on it, and when I click it, it inserts a new sheet. Now, no matter what the sheet name currently is, I'm going to double click it and replace the current name with data entry. So that's what I want to call my sheet. Now, often when I'm working with a spreadsheet, I like to zoom in and zoom out. So I'm going to hold the control key on my keyboard and move my mouse wheel forward to zoom in. And note you can move your mouse wheel backwards to zoom out. So I'm just going to zoom in so I can see more clearly. Now, what I want to do is start by entering 4 names: Sue, Matt, John, so I'm just going to overwrite Matt. So when you want to replace something, you don't need to double click it and delete it or even delete it. Just type over the top of it and overwrite it. So Sue, John, Karen, and Matt. Now notice that these 4 items are hanging towards the left hand side of their cells. If you type what Microsoft considers to be text, it will by default hang to the left of its cell. But you can of course select these 4 cells, or you could select the entire column by clicking on column A, which would go from A1 to A1,048,576 rows. But I'm just going to select these 4, and you've got these 3 buttons here. The text is currently and by default aligning to the left, but you could say actually put it to the center or send it to the right, but I'm going to leave it on the left. Now, the other thing when you're doing data entry in a spreadsheet is try not to use your mouse to go down and type something and then go down and type something. It slows you right down. It's a really bad way to operate a spreadsheet. What you should try and do is just use your up, down, left and right arrows on your keyboard to just move up and down and put data into various cells. So now I'd like to put 4 random numbers, and they are 23 down arrow, 56 down arrow, 45 down arrow and 30 down arrow. And when it comes to entering numbers, if you have a number pad on the right hand side of your keyboard, start to try and use the number pad because it is a lot faster for entering numbers into a spreadsheet. Now notice the numbers, unlike the names, are leaning towards the right hand side of their cells. So if Microsoft thinks that the data you entered is text, it'll lean to the left. If it thinks that what you've entered is a number, it will lean to the right. And everything in Excel boils down to either being text or a number. Now these 4 numbers, I might consider that I would prefer them in the center. So I'm going to choose this option here and send them to the center of their cells instead of the left or the right. Let's go for center. So we've entered text and we've entered numbers. Now let's have a look at dates. When you enter dates, try and use the slash, and it's just below the question mark on the same key as the question mark and near your shift key. So I'm going to enter the 21st of the 2nd, and the year was 1990. So I actually have to enter just a single digit for the month and 2 digits for the year. And when I press enter, Excel will naturally auto-fit the column width. That's what it does. It'll automatically change the 2 digits for the year to 1990, and it changed the 1 digit for the month, which was the number 2, to 02. So this sort of stuff happens automatically. It's formatted as a short date, and we just work with it at this point. Now the next date I want to enter is the 19th of the 3rd, and that was the year 89. So when I press enter, the 3 will change to 03 and the 89 will change to 1989. 2/5/79 was the 2nd of May 1970, and lastly the 20th of the 9th 79. Now notice also with the dates that they're leaning to the right, and the reason for that is dates in their raw form are actually numbers. We don't see that because they are by default formatted as short dates. Let me just show you this. If I select these 4 dates here, for example, I can see the word date. So these 4 cells have been formatted as dates. But when I select these cells, notice it says general, and when I select the text, it says general. In fact, when I click a blank cell, it says general. So every cell is formatted as general except for dates, because if they formatted as general, that is the dates, we wouldn't understand them. Let me show you. If I select these 4 dates here and I change these to general, which means no specific format, then those are actually numbers. Those dates are actually numbers, and that's why they lean to the right-hand side. But we don't understand them when they're numbers. We're like, well, what is that? Is that what year is that? What month is that? So we change it from general and we change it back to a short date. Let's put some more dates in. In C5, I'm going to put the 1st of the 1st, 1900. Now I'm going to enter 4 digits for the year so that it knows I mean 1900 and I don't mean 2000. Next date I'm going to enter is the 31st of the 12th, 9999. Now the interesting things about these dates is this is when dates start. So Excel can't handle a date before the 1st of the 1st, 1900. Let me show you. So if I said I wanted the 5th of the 5th, 1890, it won't lean to the right, it leans to the left because it doesn't recognize it as a date. And so it leans it to the left and says this is text. Notice also it didn't change to a short date, it stayed as general. So it doesn't recognize dates before the 1st of the 1st, 1900. Now also it can't handle dates beyond 4 nines. 9999 is the last date. That's when dates end for Excel, because it can't handle the 5th of the 5th, 10,055 or something, 555. Again, it leans to the left because we're only by default at this point in time designed to handle 4 digits for the year, not 5. All right. Anyway, those are 2 dates I want to put in. And then maybe you want to put your birthday. Of course, I'm going to lie, but 17th of April is correct. But let's just have a little bit of literary license when it comes to the year. I'm going to put 1980. So if I select this entire column and I change them from short dates, which is what they are now, to general, I can see that the 1st of the 1st, 1900 was when the world began according to Excel. And the 21st of the 12th, 9999, is when the world will end. And I can see my birthday is 29,328 days since the 1st of the 1st, 1900. So every day is a number. Let me just change this back to short date. Now there is a shortcut key also if you need to enter today's date, and it's control semicolon, that's the dot comma. So if I go control semicolon, that's a really handy shortcut key for today's date. And then if I enter tomorrow's date, no shortcut key for that. All right, so let me then change these to general. Today is 45,147 days since the 1st of the 1st, 1900. Tomorrow will be 45,148 days since the 1st of the 1st, 1900. And the day after that will be 45,149 days since the 1st of the 1st, 1900. So dates tick over 1 each day. And so that's why sometimes when you bring information from other systems into Excel, they come across like numbers, and then people freak out and go, Cath, there's something wrong with my dates. I'm like, no. They're just showing you their raw format. Select the column and change the dates back to a short date, and you'll see them as date. What you also have is the option of a long date. Maybe I want to see not a short date, but a long date. And so today is a Wednesday, and tomorrow will be a Thursday. And so the 21st of February 1990 truly was a Wednesday. You can format them to a short date, a long date. That's the 2 options in here, short date, long date, or strip them of their formatting completely. Or you can go into more number formats, and there's all sorts of options that you can choose in here. Now these are New Zealand type dates. If I changed it to English US, then I'd be seeing month, day, year. But here in New Zealand, we do day, month, year. So I'm going to change it from United States back to New Zealand. So that's something to be mindful of as well. We put the day before the month. And if you didn't like any of those formats, perhaps I want full stops for my dates, but I don't want 2 digits for the year, I want 4 digits for the year, and there's nothing in there that looks like that, then go to custom. If I go to custom and I strip out what's in here and delete it, I'm seeing that the 21st of February 1990 in my sample was 32,925 days since the 1st 1900. Now if I want to see the day as 2 digits, I go DD and see my sample shows me DD, which is 21 for the day. Then I'll go full stop and I want to see the month, which is February, as 02. So I go MM and full stop. And then if I want to see the year as 4 digits, I can add 3 or 4 Ys, 1, 2, 3, or 4 Ys. And my sample shows me that this format, this custom format, will change this date to have 2 digits for the day, 2 digits for the month, and 4 digits for the year. And let me go OK, and I've applied that to that entire column. Let's say I want a different custom date, so I'll select this column again, and see it says custom now. So we've looked at general, we've looked at short date, we've looked at long date, and now we're even looking at custom. Let's take this out and try another one. The more D's I type, the more I'm implying I want the day in full. So if I do a single D, I get 21. There's 21st February, sample. If I do a second D, I still get 21 February. If I do a third D, I get WED. If I do a fourth D, I get Wednesday. The more Ds you type in the custom format, the more you want the day in full. So I'm going to go for Wednesday and then a space, so you can add any extra characters you like. And then let's just say I want the day again, but as a number. So I just go D. So Wednesday 21. Now let's say I need another space, and now I'm going to work with my M's for the month. If I do a single M, I get 2 for February. February is a 2. If I go 2 M's, I get 02. If I go 3 M's, I get Feb. And if I go 4 M's, I get February. You can literally control the look of your dates entirely by stringing together however you want to, D's, M's and Y's. Let's say I want a comma and then a space, and then I'll keep plugging the Y's, dunk, 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 until I get the years the way I want them. And if I go OK, then that has formatted those dates exactly how I want them. Okay, so I think we understand dates now. And of course, dates lean to the right because they're numbers. Okay, now the other thing I want to look at is the undo. When you go Control Z, you will undo, 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 undo. That's the shortcut key. This is the button on your quick access toolbar. Undo, 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 undo. You have 100 levels of undo. So you just keep going undo until you get to a happy place. In fact, when you're a beginner, I often say to my classes, if you're new and you make a mistake, get in the habit of going undo. If you try and fix it with the small amount of knowledge that you have because you're still learning, you may make it worse. So rather than try to fix it, just go undo and give it another shot. Now, if you undo too far, you can redo. That's this other button going the other way. And notice when I rest on it that the tooltip is Control Y. So pretty much in all Microsoft programs, the last 2 letters of the alphabet, Control Z and Control Y, are undo and redo respectively. So I can redo, 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 redo everything I've undoed. Proper computer speak. Until I can no longer redo. So Control Z to undo, Control Y to redo. They are keys you really want to learn. Okay. Now we've looked at entering data, and we looked at the fact that if we typed on top of a cell that already had data, we would overwrite it. Let's look at this in more detail. I'm going to arrow up to Sue. Now if I type over the top of Sue, I get Susan, and that just replaces it. But what if I don't want to overwrite it? I literally just want to change it. I want to edit it. John's rung perhaps, and he prefers to be called Jonathan. So I want to change John to Jonathan. Well, there's 3 ways that you can do this. You can either click up in the formula bar here and change it to Jonathan, enter. And then I'll go Control Z to undo that. Or you could double click the cell and put a than and enter. And I'll go Control Z to undo that. Or you could press the function key F2. F2 is edit. So if I go down to Matt, pressing enter or down arrow, Matt prefers Matthew. I'll press F2 and I'll add HEW. I'll go back up to Susan and she prefers to have an NE on the end. I'll go F2 and add an NE on the end. If typing's not your strength, you don't want to be typing Suzanne in full, you just want to type the NE on the end. So get in the habit of just pressing F2 and making a change, or double clicking and making a change, or clicking up here in the formula bar and making a change, and minimize the amount of typing that you have to do. Okay, so that's editing, overwriting. And deleting, of course, is just a matter of going to a cell and press the delete key. Now, don't press the backspace key. That's not really what it was designed for. The delete key is to completely delete what's in a cell. And then arrow up and delete again, and arrow up and delete again. And so you can easily delete stuff. Delete stuff, edit stuff, enter stuff, overwrite stuff. Now, the other parting piece of information I want to share with you is sometimes when we type something into a cell, Excel doesn't behave the way we'd like it to. So, for example, if I was to type in this cell here, because there's been a date in it in a previous lifetime, it remembers that. And so if I go to type 100 and I press enter, it thinks that's 100 days since the 1st, 1900, which is the 9th of April. And so I think, no, I want that to be a number, or I want that just to be general. So I hope we understand now that if it types something and it changes it, because there's previously been a date in there, this is really with regards to dates, go back to here and change it to general, which means no specific format. So if you type in a cell that's had a date in it in a previous life and it changes it to a date, switch it back to general. But if you go to a cell that hasn't been a date in a previous life, hasn't had a date in it before, and you type something like, I don't know, like the 3/4, I'm thinking I'm typing 3/4. Excel's thinking I'm typing the 3rd of April. And that's annoying. So if you want 3/4, do a single quote or an apostrophe, whatever you're used to calling it. Then go 3/4. Now when I press enter, that apostrophe won't show in the cell. It'll appear in the formula bar, but it won't show in the cell. The apostrophe is your way of telling Excel, this is text, don't change it. And so when I press enter, it leans to the left like text is supposed to do. It doesn't show the single quote or apostrophe, but when I look in the formula bar, I can see there's a single quote there, and I can tell that the cell has been formatted as text. Another example might be if I want to show equals 100 like this. I want to show that, but every time I press enter, it goes 100. It thinks it's being helpful when it comes to dates and numbers, and it's truly not. If I want to force that to be text, single quote equals 100, it won't change it because of the single quote. Same with phone numbers. If I go 027, it drops the leading 0. If I go apostrophe 027, it doesn't drop the leading 0. So if it changes it, put an apostrophe in front of it. If you are going to be putting a lot of phone numbers in, mobile numbers in this column and landlines in this column, you may actually want to select that column or two and actually format those columns, it's tucked away down here, as text. And if you format those cells as text, it means that whenever you type a number in, it won't lose the leading 0. And whenever you type a landline in, it won't lose the leading 0. So consider whether you actually need to format those columns as text. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like or subscribe. My name's Cathi Barker from Software Solutions, and that's entering, editing and deleting data in Excel. See you soon.